Is Raygan Meehan. Raygan lives in Dubuque and attends Hempstead High School. The title of her project is Lunch Tray 5K.
Hi everyone, my name is Raygan Meehan. I'm from Dubuque and my project is titled Lunch Tray 5K. This was a fundraiser run I hosted on October 5th for negative school lunch balances in the Dubuque Community School District. Who here got hot lunch from school as a kid? I did every day, and having a convenient, nutritious meal helped set my schoolies up for success, and I still get school lunch even as a senior in high school and varsity athlete. School lunch is a basic need for all children, and unfortunately, kids in my district, the state of Iowa, and across the country don't have equal access to this necessity. There is a major inequality and problem with the application period for federal assistance in my district, and I hosted Lunch Tray 5K to do my part in alleviating a hardship for hundreds of families in my community. Before I go into more details about the race, a little about me. I'm the daughter of a public schools educator. My mother was a teacher for many years before going back to school, and now she's been a principal for 24 years. She works at a school where over 55% of students rely on free and reduced lunch, so I've seen firsthand through her how much of a need there is in my community. I also love running. I just finished up my 4th cross-country season and have the goal of running a marathon before my 25th birthday. Back in March, I was a teaching assistant for freshman biology, and I was prepping for a frog dissection lab when I got a notification on my watch that my guidance counselor had sent out information about this amazing scholarship. As I was prepping the lab, I was trying to think of something uncommon that I could do. I remembered how back in January, my parents went to an event that was fundraising for negative lunch balances, and I thought, why not combine my love of running with my value of education and host a run for student school lunch day. All in the span of about 10 minutes, I thought of the name, which is pretty catchy if I do say so myself, and was already thinking of t-shirt designs. Even though the idea came about quickly, putting it into action wasn't without obstacles. I was originally trying to host this race by myself over the summer. Plan A was for it to happen in August around back to school time, but that did not work. I could not get the special event insurance needed to obtain a permit, so I emailed and called several community organizations and nonprofits, but no one really wanted to help a 17-year-old girl host this. But I pivoted and came up with Plan B, which was asking for help in collaborating with my school student government to host. On my school student government, I'm chair of inclusivity, so that's my exec members, and I presented hosting Lunch Tray 5K as a special individual project for my role, and I presented to our president. She was all for it, so then I got the green light from our principal and started getting to work. The next person I reached out for help from was my cross-country coach and mentor, Sharon Klein. She gave me the rundown on how to actually host a race. She had experience hosting, I do not. The simple version of the game plan was to get a permit, a t-shirt design, and a store set up, and then advertise, which was all easier said than done. Getting the permit was relatively simple once I shifted gears and was hosting this as technically a Hempstead student government event. We hosted it at a local park that I knew from cross-country practice mile repeats had a really nice 1-mile loop. For the t-shirts, I worked with a local design company, District 20, and they were able to transform this terrible zero art skills drawing into this incredible shirt down below. I also reached out to 15 local businesses to see if they were interested in donating and being listed on the back as a sponsor. I didn't hear back from the majority, but I'm so grateful for these on the back that helped out. I used our student government social media to help advertise, and I also put race info in the morning announcements over the loudspeaker, and I hung up these posters throughout the school and the community. In the days leading up to the race, I prepped the first place prize bags, which resembled like a hot lunch roll, which had a PB&J, a cutie, and then a cookie, but fruit snacks today. I also made signs so people would know where to park. That was my trunk. It was pretty packed that morning. And then I organized a team of volunteers to help also. My school's National Honor Society, student government, and cross-country team all helped out that morning, which is so appreciated. In total, there are about 25 volunteers, and things actually went so smoothly, which I was kind of surprised by, but there were about 25 volunteers helped out. For this race, I wanted the t-shirt to be the race fee. There was an online store open for several weeks that sold the shirt for $13. I worked with the community nonprofit, the Dubuque Foundation for Public Schools, to help with advertising and some of the organizing. This was actually one of the nonprofits I reached out to over the summer to see if they could help me originally, but they said no, but they were able to help. Now in October, we were setting up an online donation site, which was so appreciated, so people could donate online if they chose to do that. They also donated 30 t-shirts to sell the morning of in case anyone wanted to buy one in the morning of and they didn't do it in advance. In total, the race had just over 45 people running and walking. Like a typical fun run, they could either run the 5K or walk a mile. And the overall winner, Max Hoden, he finished with a time of 20 minutes, 36 seconds. It was pretty elite competition at this race. It was pretty intense. I was really proud of how the race ended up working out, and so were my student government advisors. We talked and we decided that this will be an annual Hempstead hosted race that will be organized primarily by the Chairs of Inclusivity to come. A rewarding aspect of this race was also just educating people. A lot of the people I talked to that morning thought that lunch was free for students that qualified, which is true, it can be, but not unless the barrier waiting period debt is paid, which can be a hardship for many families. The Dubuque School's district photographer was there, and he admitted when I was talking to him that he did not know that kids had to pay for school lunch or that negative balances were even a problem. It shocked me that a district employee wasn't aware of this, but educating people is the first step to a solution. The majority of negative balances are under $30. It's a large number of students with a small amount of debt. This happens during the waiting period for federal assistance. I feel like the best way to explain this is with an example. So let's say that a family has 2 kids, and each day each child gets a $3.10 lunch for 1 week before the parent applies and gets approved for that federal aid. So now they're on the federal assistance, but until that $31 gets paid off, that debt, they cannot fully get the benefit of the aid. So until that's paid by the parent or donation like Lunch Tray 5K, the kids are not allowed to get the hot lunch entree. Instead, they're given this, a sun butter and jelly sandwich with string cheese. This will be their meal every day until that balance gets paid. And as soon as each student's lunch debt reaches negative $9.45, they are not allowed to get the hot lunch entree. So now it's pizza day, and all the kids in the cafeteria are enjoying their favorite lunch. These kids are given this, and that's it. If those kids get a school breakfast, which costs $1.90, the lunch debt can accrue even faster. I reached out to my district nutrition coordinator, and she told me that the Dubuque Schools has over $10,000 in lunch day annually. When I hosted Lunch Tray 5K on October 5th, the balance for students with negative school lunch balances was $3,354. That was after only 6 weeks of school. From donations, sponsors, and the online giving site, the race fundraised $795, which was roughly enough to eliminate 2 weeks' worth of debt. And for a school district with over 10,000 kids, I think that's pretty impressive. Lunch Tray 5K was hosted with the same goal in mind that Herbert Hoover had leading the Commission for Relief in the American Relief Administration, helping feed those who need it most. I'll be honest, I didn't know a whole lot about President Hoover before I applied for this opportunity. But through this incredible program, I've learned so much. It's cool to know that someone from Iowa went out into the world and did big things, just like I have every ambition to do. As I was researching Hoover's impact, I was inspired that many of his efforts were simply feeding the hungry. The great humanitarian is a respectable nickname to earn. In the Child's Bill of Rights, which he wrote in 1923, he lists the conditions that no child in America should grow up in, one of those being undernourishment. Children need 3 nutritional meals a day to fuel their growing bodies, and having a negative lunch balance can hinder that. I was really moved after learning what Herbert Hoover did to feed Belgian children after World War I. My mother's side of the family is Belgian, and my great-uncles were actually part of the 2.5 million kids that Hoover fed. Lou Henry Hoover organized the Commission for Relief branch and fundraised for one of the first global food shipments. This race fundraised for the distribution of meals, completely different in scales, but the goal in mind was the same. I remember being in 4th grade, and one of my classmates shared to me how school lunch on Friday was her last meal until breakfast at school Monday morning. Hearing that kind of thing sticks with you, and while she did get the help she needed, that's the reality for children in Iowa, and that's why I spent months planning this race. I'm proud to say that it positively impacted me and students and families in my district. I wouldn't have been able to host Lunch Tray 5K if it weren't for my older sisters helping me write emails and call them with any question, my student government team, and my counselor for sharing the information of this incredible program with me. So thank you. And also thank you to Tiffany for being so organized and helpful throughout this process. But most of all, thank you to the Hoover family for your generosity and this incredible opportunity. Thank you.
So where was the race held, and what was the date again?
It was hosted on Saturday, October 5th at Eagle Point Park, so a really nice public park that overlooks the Mississippi River.
How many racers did you have?
We had just over 45.
I thought you did a really nice job, so thank you.
Thank you.
Can we talk about any lessons that you learned, like for if you do one in the spring, or if somebody else wants to do some? What are some of the lessons you would tell them that you learned?
Yeah, I would tell them to start applying for the permit process earlier. I had to wait until July until I got approval from my principal to actually host this. And then communicating with the city of Dubuque, it took a while to actually get confirmation that I was going to get a permit and I'd be able to host this race. So I would tell them start earlier and also start reaching out to sponsors earlier as well.
So thank you for educating me on this. I didn't even know this was an issue. So that's fantastic. So have you thought about how you can like expand this in the future, like for other schools? I mean, it's great that it's affecting one school, but do you have plans to kind of expand it?
Yeah, so obviously I'm going to college next year, but I would love to maybe host it at my future university with like the local school district there. And it'll be hosted again in Dubuque next year. But yeah, if anyone from another student government would be interested in hosting something like this, I'd be completely open to sharing all the information and tips for them.
Thank you.
What qualifies a student for a free lunch program or a subsidy?
Yep, so if their parent makes under a certain amount, I believe it's under $30,000 annually, or if they come from like a single parent household and they have a counselor recommendation, then they can apply for it, and usually it's like takes a week and then they can get on the federal assistance.
How many students in the Dubuque system are on that?
Yep, there's actually a couple schools that are Title I. There's 4 elementary schools, and every single student at that school qualifies because it's a Title I school. But I would estimate about like 3,000 students in total. The Dubuque schools are on that.
You said you ran cross-country. Can you
Yeah.
give us some stories about that? I went to Fort Dodge once, I saw the start of it, and I'd never seen a cross-country meet. It was unbelievable, that first 100 yards. But what's that mean to you today as you go on to school? And what were some of the lessons you learned in cross-country?
Throughout cross country, I learned honestly more about myself, even though it's like a team sport. I was one of the slower runners, so I was always at the back of the pack. But just being in a team environment that was so supportive compared to other sports I've been in, and having my mentor, Coach Sharon Klein, help me with this race, I really just learned about dedication and hard work and how to push yourself, and also like the mental aspect of it. I really grew a lot from cross country.
Why a marathon?
A marathon, I think that's just a good goal to have in life, and my golden birthday is my 25th, so I thought that'd be a realistic timeline, maybe good, healthy activity to do in college and future education.
That's a great goal. You run the race when you sign up. I remember that. When you sign up, you're in.
Yeah.
So, good luck with that.